I mean, you get fired when the truth is not what they want. You know, I got fired from leading the Genome Project because I didn't like patenting nonsense. You know, hated gene patents, and thank God, you know, finally this judge has said the myriad breast cancer gene patent is a disgrace. It is. Yeah. So, you know, there were some things I just, you know, don't patent knowledge. You can patent a drug, you know, all that, but it was just, you know, lawyers are awful people. Patent lawyers really are God, scum. With that, I'll stop.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. We are now preparing the stage for Q&A time.
Sure, I can ask one question. Sure.
We would like also to remind you that the book signing session will start after Q&A.
Going to do that now?
If anyone had some question, I can, you know, answer one or two.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So Dr. Watson will only answer one or two questions.
Yes.
Okay. So.
Dr. Watson, I have a question for you. What goals that you have not achieved so far, but you like a younger generation to pursue further? The second question is, you started with the Watson School at Cold Spring Harbor there, and has this Watson School reached your educational philosophy? And what are your educational philosophy?
Admit bright students. You know, we've been very lucky in the Watson School getting some very good students. We've had some very good women students. They've done very well. I think the main problem of people is I find they're not quite, they're intellectually a little too narrow. That is, I think it's been a big advantage that I was not trained like a biochemist, but I was a biologist, so I have a rather broad view. You know, once molecular biologists were great, but now hardcore molecular biologists are as dull as chemists. You know, they're just, you know, they don't know enough. Very narrow. So, you know, a broad excitement, you know, over a discipline, I think is good, and part, of course, we're getting so much knowledge, oh, I have a rule which was I didn't say, which is always sit in the front row. Now, everyone can't sit in the front row, so you should just get to the seminar and sit in the front row. And the reason you want to be in the front row is you can ask a question. Now, people have become so polite in the United States, no one ever criticizes people at seminars. Now, when I grew up, and people were criticized. Now you don't want to offend a girl because you might lose your job. If you don't criticize girls, you can't criticize boys. No one gets criticized. Whereas most people give terrible talks. And someone should sit in the front row and say they don't understand. And, you know, and being able to ask an intelligent question actually shows you know something. So, you know, the front row, it's very boring to give a talk and there's no front row who challenges you. Yeah. So, you know, so I was brought up, you know, with the belief that, you know, seminars were to be occasions when, you know, it was a learning experience. You know, when graduate students, let them give talks and they give terrible talks. I mean, we had the most terrible talk by a young staff member at Cold Spring Harbor. And I had to leave, but it was a terrible talk. She had done some good science and gave a terrible talk. Okay? So, that's not going to help her. So you're not, so it just pays to be tough on people. You know, be tough when, you know, don't be tough on a dumb person. No, but be tough on bright people. Okay? So that's sort of slightly disappearing from Cold Spring Harbor because of this pervasive, awful political correctness. Yeah. Political correctness is just, you know, you're saying that it's not true. So, you know, we're saying, well, we got to be multinational and everything, and so we don't want to offend anyone. Well, I grew up, everyone was offending everyone else. And I learned, you learn very fast. It's, you know, someone gives a bad talk and no one says it's a bad talk. How do you get standards unless there's someone to teach you standards? Okay, so, and that's a little missing though. I must say some of our students are very good. I mean, real good. So, and I had wonderful students at Harvard. I mean, really incredibly good. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Ian.
First of all, I want to say that we understand you. And then the second thing is, that's my question. When you were bird watching as a kid, did you ever wish to be a historian or an educator or something else? If you do, why?
I think I could have been I loved history. I could have been a historian. You know, I like to write books. I'm glad I'm not one. You know, I was, you know, if it hadn't been for Schrodinger's What is Life, I would, you know, I probably never would have, you know, seen the gene as the big problem. I think it's, you know, it's sort of important when you're young to have someone you want to be like. You know, right now I want to, you know, have a forehand as good as Roger Federer. You know, I have a role model. So in science, you know, you should have role models, people that, you know, and you can have them and then you can get another one. But imitation is the way you learn. I mean, it's part of it. It's not completely, but, you know, you want to get your own style finally. But you got to pick it up in one way or the other, you know. So a very important part of my education is that when I was very young, I met everyone important. Yeah, almost, because they either came to Cold Spring Harbor or, you know, there weren't many places where good science was being done. So the last group of people I didn't know I met when I went to Cambridge and I was 23.